A very good morning to all participants. I again welcome you all for the second session of this short-term training program. So this second session will be by Miss Shubhra Dalokotti, and she is the process manager at American Express, and she is just going to connect now. So we will be starting the second session, and this session is basically on image pre-processing using Python. So yes, now the ma'am has connected. So again, welcome you all for the second session of this shortened training program under AQIS AICTE approved. Now, I would like to welcome Ms. Shubhra Dalokotti. She is the expert for this session. So, Ms. Shubhra Dalokotti is the data scientist with American Express, and she's a machine learning certified professional with over 7 years of technical proficiency in the field of machine learning, business intelligence, data modeling, analysis, ETL deployment, and reporting. So I would like to invite ma'am for her session. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So, can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. So, hello everyone. I'm working with American Express as a data scientist, and today I will be taking you through a brief introduction on image processing with Python. So, let me start. I'll present my screen. Before proceeding with the image processing with Python, I'd like to introduce you to few libraries. So today I will be using OpenCV for image processing, and other than OpenCV, there are various libraries that we'll talk about. We'll just go through them. So OpenCV was officially launched in 1999, and it was an Intel initiative. So it's as it's already written here. So its code is basically written in C++, and it's an open source library, and it's quite easy to learn, and it's quite handy. All you need to do is you just have to import a certain methods. You have to have a knowledge of certain methods, and then you are done. So that's basic on OpenCV, and today we'll be talking on how to, we'll be exploring some libraries, how to read an image, how to read some multiple images, printing the dimensions, converting an image, from converting a colored image to a grayscale, detecting some edges, drawing certain shapes, resizing, and certain more transformations. Now, let me introduce you to some libraries other than OpenCV. So in Python, there are various libraries for various tasks. For example, if I have to, in machine learning or in the field of data science, if I have to do certain transformations, for example, I have to clean the data, I want to add a pivot on my data, join, merge, and certain other data manipulation tasks. So there is a library which is known as Python Pandas, which is quite handy, and you'll find it very easy to learn. So it's anybody who does not even have a background of Python can go ahead and learn this. So that's a very basic and a very handy library for data manipulation tasks. For image manipulation, we have a library from Scikit tool. So that's called a Scikit-image. So any library that you want to use in Python, you just have to import it. If it's not installed, you will have to install it first, and then you will have to import it in this manner. Import whatever module you want. And second is NumPy. So NumPy is nothing but a library which is basically used for manipulation with arrays. So whenever you have to do any kind of array manipulation, so NumPy is the best choice. And the reason we've written it in this image processing section is because an image is nothing but a stack of arrays. It's nothing but the pixels. They are nothing but an array, the combination. So that's why we can process it using NumPy as well. And third is a SciPy. So that's a library which is used for basic image manipulation tasks. And so in SciPy, scipy.nd image, this provides provides operations on arrays. So that's another library. And then we have OpenCV, of course. And the final one is Mahutas. That's another library. PIL, which is Python Image Library. That's another library for opening, manipulating, and working on a different image file formats. So in addition to that, we might have other libraries as well. So for example, whenever I'm working on a data science project, I'm working on this machine learning project, I'll use another set of library. Whenever I'm working with the calculations, the statistics calculation, I'll use stats models. So there are different libraries for different purposes. So that's just an introduction to the libraries. So now we'll see how to read an image. As you can see here, an image is nothing but this is a two-dimensional signal in spanning across the horizontal and vertical axes. So that's an image. If you notice the x and y coordinates in this picture, so it is nothing but a combination of different pixels. So an image, the smallest element in an image is known as a pixel, and this is nothing but an array. The pixel value will range from 0 to 255 in an 8-bit grayscale image. That's just a theoretical part. Now we'll see how to read an image in Python. So I'm using a Kaggle here, for any Python processing, any processing with for the demonstration purposes. Kaggle is a great learning platform, and I know that you must already be aware about this platform. Like we have Udemy for training purposes, to take training courses. We have Kaggle for to join any online competitions to enhance your learning. So this provides various other platforms. So I'm at Kaggle and I have opened a Python session, and this is nothing but a Jupyter notebook. So I'm working on Jupyter notebooks only, but in Kaggle, which is a learning platform. So even if you don't have a Python installed in your systems, you can very well go ahead and utilize these learning platforms. So now to read an image with OpenCV, all you need to remember is this function. cv2.imread function is used to open an image in read-only mode. As in, you will have to, this function will help you to read an image. And ImShow, now whenever you are reading an image, the next thing is how to display it. So ImShow, cv2.imShow function will help you display the image. Now let's see what's the format of this. If you notice, this is nothing but a variable. I'll take you through the code as well, but then as of now, I'm just discussing the basic file format, the basic format of this function, cv2.imread. Now this is image. Image is nothing but a variable in this case. I'm storing the output of cv2.imread in a variable known as image. So you can use any variable, any meaningful variable of your choice. So cv2.imread, which is this, and then your file name, and then the flags. So that's the basic format. cv2.imread, you will have to mention this part, the file name, and then flags. So now these flags are nothing but these flags are options on how you can control the image. For example, if you want to read your image as a colored image, so you'll provide that particular flag. If you want to read your image as a gray, so these were the libraries that we discussed, and this is nothing but the image that I was talking about. Let me scroll it a bit up. So this is the image that I've used for demonstration purposes. This contains nothing but any image is made up of axes. I'm reiterating what I told you. So an image is nothing but it spans across two coordinates, horizontal and vertical coordinates. This is the x direction and y direction. The smallest element in an image is known as a pixel. So these are all the pixels, and so So an image is basically combination of pixels, and in an 8-bit image, the pixels, the value of pixel can lie from 0 to 255, and this is nothing but an array of pixels. Now, to read an image in OpenCV, what we do is we basically use this cv2.imread function. To display an image, we use cv2.imshow. Now, I'll tell you what cv2 is. So this is the basic format, cv2.imread, the file name, and then the flags. So that's the basic format that you'll use. Now, these flags are nothing but the image controlling options. Basically, this will determine on how your image is being read. For example, if you want to read your image as a colored image, you'll use imread color, this one, this flag. And if you want to read your image as a grayscale image, so if you want to read your image in a grayscale mode, you'll use imread_grayscale. So this will help you read your image as a grayscale image. So these are the flags that we basically use. So now let's see on how do we actually read an image. So this is the code to read an image. Now, the very first thing that we begin while writing a code is we import all the necessary libraries. So now for me, the necessary libraries in this case are the OpenCV module. So I am importing the OpenCV library as import cv2. So that's why anywhere I'm reading an image or I'll display an image, I'll use this method cv2 dot and then the corresponding method. So I'm calling the method from this library. So I've imported cv2, and then in this for this demonstration, I will not be using cv2.imshow method to display an image. However, I just wanted to show you that other than OpenCV, other than cv2.imshow, there are various other methods that can help display an image. For example, matplotlib, which is a great library for image, images to whenever you have to for plotting and visualization. That's a great library. So I am using that library, the matplotlib library, to display images, display the images here. So for that purpose, I have imported the library. If you notice the second line of code, which is import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. Now this as PLT is nothing but an alias to the bigger name matplotlib.pyplot. So instead of using matplotlib.pyplot all through my code, I will now use PLT, which is just an alias for the sake of simplicity. And third module is OS, which is not utilized in this case, but I'll tell you about the importance of this later on. So now the third part is here, image. So this is, I have stored the output of this particular, this particular thing, this particular code in a variable known as image. So you can utilize, you can create any variable of your own choice. So that's that. So the reason for creation of this variable is I'm storing the output. Now I'm reading an image using cv2.imread function, and then the image that I'm using is a butterfly image which resides in this path. So I'm first, because my image is not in the default path, but then it's somewhere else. So for that purpose, I'm reading the entire directory, which is this, and then the image name, which is butterfly.jpg. So this is how I'm reading an image. And the third part is plt.figure. This determines the size of your image, the plot, the size of the plot. That's the thing. And then this is the subplot. I have a single image, so I am using a single subplot, and then this is the title of my image, which is original. Now, whenever my image will be displayed, it will be titled as original. And now to display, I'm utilizing plt.imshow. So to display an image in using matplotlib, all we need to do is we'll have to utilize the alias, which is plt or any alias that you wish to use. So plt.imshow. So to the display, you'll have to use imshow method. So this is important. And then image. Now the reason I've used image here is because I've stored the output in an image variable. If it would have been anything else other than that, if let's say it would have been image_1, so I would have used image_1 here. So that's nothing but a variable. Now, and then the code. So if you notice, the output of this code is nothing but a beautiful butterfly image. So that's how we display an image. If you see it here, so that's how an image is being read. So I took a directory, I read an image using the OpenCV method cv2.imread, and then I displayed it using plt.imshow method. So that's the basic thing I did. And next thing would be, now I'll tell you the importance of this OS method. So OS is nothing but an operating system. Whenever you have to work on directories, whenever you want, you don't want to read the directories again and again. Let's say you have 4 or 5 files that are residing in a particular directory, and then you don't want your code to read those directories again and again. You can set your directory using chdr module from using chdr command from the OS library. So chdr is nothing but change directory, like we have in Windows and elsewhere. So that's chdr, and you can change your directory, and then you can read the file name directly. So that's the thing. And you can also check what's your current directory using this pwd command. If you notice, pwd will tell me present working directory, which was nothing but Kaggle and then working. However, my files were not in this directory. So that's the reason either I'll use os.chdr method to change the directory, or I'll use the entire path along with the file name. That's the basic thing. Now I'll tell you how to read multiple images. So to read multiple images, there are various things that you'll have to keep in mind. First thing that I'll be using in this code is a glob method, and then second is the Python data structure, which is nothing but a list. So a list is nothing but a combination of elements of different data types. You can have integer, float, string, anything, and any data, any different data type. But then the elements are kept inside the square bracket. So whenever you see square brackets in Python, just remember that that's a list, and it can contain different elements of different data types. So for storage purposes, I am using list here because I am reading multiple images and I want a variable and I want a data structure to store those multiple elements. And glob is whenever you will have to, whenever your program needs to look for a list of files on the file system, and it wants to search for a matching pattern. So for pattern matching and the files that have certain extension, prefix, and anything in the middle, I'm using a glob for that. So now I'll take you through the code. I have imported the glob module, import glob, import cv2, import matplotlib, and then I've just created a variable called folders to search in this directory, input OpenCV samples and then data. Now here I've created a list which is named as image names underscore list, and the reason the square brackets are empty is because that's an empty list. We will append the elements in this list through our code. Now I'm looping in in these folders. In this folder, there are folders in this. There is a folder in this path, OpenCV images data. Now my code is looping through this folder for folder in folders or for I in folders, anything. Now, if you notice, I have a file name called blender-star.jpg, means anything that begins with Blender. So I'm reading those files and just appending. To append an element to a list, we use dot append. The image name, the list name, which is image names.list in this case. So if you want to append anything to a list, always use the particular list that you've created and then the append method. So this dot append. If you want to extend your list, use extend method. So to delete elements from list, there are methods like delete, pop, and so on. So I'm using append. So the list name dot append, and then the variable here, the the loop element. So this will just append the file names to this list. Now, then I am just reading another list, which will now take the file names inside these folders. Now the file names are already in the image names.list. Now this will basically read the file names and display them. So I've created another list, which is read images. Now for image in image names.list, now this image names.list contains the list name, as you can see it here. If you notice the output here in the black screen, input OpenCV samples data Blender. So this path, the OpenCV sample data contains two images, 1 and 2. So that's the reason I'm looping through them. So for image in image names.list, and then again appending the corresponding output into the list, which is read images. So CV, now I am reading the image from that particular list that I had created earlier using cv2.imread, and then the loop, and here the element, the iterator, and then the flag. I'm using it, reading it in a grayscale mode this time. Now to display multiple images, I am just looping in through the subplot. For I in range length of my images, I've created a loop till the length of my image, and then plt.subplot 1 to 2, and then I plus 1. That's just a loop. It will display them. It will display the multiple images, and then plt.imshow, and the color map is gray in this case. So this will display multiple images if you notice the output. So these were the two images that got displayed in the from this path, input OpenCV samples. So that's how we display multiple images. Now next is talking about the dimensions. See, any image that we talk, whether it's a colored image or it's a grayscale, has a dimension, because it's nothing but it's an array altogether. So it has a dimension. So OpenCV takes the combination of height into width as the dimension. So if you have a colored image, you'll notice 3 parameters. If you have a grayscale image, you'll notice only 2 parameters. So this is, if you notice this, 175, this is just an example, 175, 289, and 3. This is nothing but height, width, and 3 is the channel, the color channel for a colored image, which will be absent in case of a grayscale image. These are the channel is nothing but an RGB component. Now, how do we print the dimensions? How do we know what are the dimensions of an image in Python? So for that, you have to use the shape method. You'll have to call the shape method. If you notice here, I am importing the libraries again, and cv2.imread, again reading the same butterfly image, but then now this time I'm not displaying the image, instead I'm printing the dimensions. So for that, I'll use image, the variable name, dot shape. So to print the dimensions, you'll always use the shape method. So if you notice the shape here, which is 356, 493, and 3. The reason this shape method is important, many times you have to perform certain transformations in images. For example, you'll have to crop an image, you'll have to rotate an image, maybe flip. So to perform all these kind of transformations, you require the dimensions. You should know what is the height and width, and to what extent should I crop my image, to what extent, to what degree should I rotate my image. So for all those transformations, the height and width, as in the dimensions of image, they are very important. Now, how do we convert an image to a grayscale image? So a grayscale is nothing but which has the colors in form of all the gray shades. Now, to read an image, there are to convert a colored image to a grayscale image, there are two methods. If you notice that up till now I was using the butterfly image, which was a colored image. Now I'll convert it into a grayscale image. Same thing, I am using the butterfly.jpg using cv2.imread, and then here, as I told you, to read an image in a grayscale mode, all you need to do is set the appropriate flag, imread_grayscale, and then display it and then set the corresponding color map, the CMAP as gray. So if you just write these two lines of codes, you are done with it, and then you can see that the image has been converted to a grayscale image, the colored image. The next method is using the convert color function. Now what I'm doing is, I am in the first line of code where I've written source. So I'm simply reading the file as it is. It's a colored file, it's a colored image, so the image is being read as a colored image in the first line of code. Now in the second line of code, instead of setting a flag, I am using cv2.convertColor, cvt color, and then the variable which was source, in this case this variable source, and cv2.color bgr to gray. I'm using this method and then displaying it accordingly. Now the image has been converted to a grayscale image. Now if you notice the shape, I've printed gray.shape. If you notice, there are only two parameters with this, unlike the colored image which had three parameters, which were height, width and channel. But then this is a grayscale mode, so this will contain only two parameters, which are height and width. That's the basic difference. So whenever you have to print the dimensions, use the shape method. So I've used gray.shape because I stored the output of this code in a gray variable. Now next is finding the edges. So to detect the edges, which can be used, in features like edge detection and some advanced features. So to detect the edges, we use the Canny method. I'll just give you a basic idea on how are the edges being detected. So what I've done here is, I've read the image cv2.imread and then converted it into a grayscale image now. And then I'm using a cv2.canny to detect the edges. So cv2.canny, if you notice the file format here, so cv.canny, the images, the image name, edges, and then the threshold and the aperture size. So here what I'm doing is, I am simply reading the variable gray, and then I am determining the thresholds, 30 and 200, and then I'm just displaying it, plt.imshow. So this is how the edges are being detected. Now next is, how do you draw geometric lines in an image? Let's say if you have a face, and whenever you are performing face detection or any feature detection techniques in Python, for images, and you have to draw geometric shapes. You want to highlight a particular thing. For example, you are performing image segmentation and you want to highlight all the particular features that belong to one color using a square bracket or using a circle. You want to draw, all in all, you want to draw certain geometric shapes to an image. Now, how do we do that? So the first thing that we do is we'll be drawing a line, rectangle, circle, and we'll be writing a text in a particular image. So that these are the 4 operations that we'll be doing. Now, to draw a line, it's quite simple. All we need to do is use cv2.line method. Similarly, to draw a rectangle, we will use the rectangle method. For circle, the circle method. And to write a text, but obvious, we'll use put text. So now let's see how do we draw a line. Now, any line, you know that it has the starting coordinates and the ending coordinates. Now we should know, to what extent do we want to draw a line in an image. So this is the basic syntax. cv2.line, the image name, and then the starting coordinates, ending coordinates, color, and line thickness. That's the basic syntax of cv2.line. I will take you through the code. So I've imported all the necessary libraries, and in this part, in this section of the code, I am reading the image again. And now here, any comments in Python, the single line comments, they are usually written by the hash symbol. So that's the reason you are seeing these things in green color. They are nothing but comments, anything that are having a hash with it. So to create a line, I am basically creating variables. So in this code, I am doing, I am creating a line, rectangle, circle, all together in a single piece of code. I'll take you through them one by one. So to draw a line, I have simply stored the output in this variable called L1, utilizing cv2.line method. And now if you notice that the image was stored in img variable, this variable img. Now instead of using this, what I'm doing, cv2.line method to draw a line, and then the image name. Now here, if you notice, instead of using the original image, I am using a copy of the image. So whenever you have to use a copy of the image, or you want to create a copy of the image, always use .copy method. The reason is because I am, creating all these, I am drawing all these geometric shapes in a single, in the same image. So for that, for the sake of simplicity and for better visualization, I'm creating a copy each time. So just I've taken a copy of the image using image.copy, and these are the starting coordinates, and then the ending coordinates. And then this is the color, and then this is the line thickness that I've given. And now this font and everything, if you notice here, this font and all, this is for put text whenever we'll write a text. So we'll discuss that later on. Now, to create a rectangle, I have again done the same thing, cv2.rectangle, taken a copy of the image, the starting coordinates, color, and then the thickness. And for circle, we'll use the copy, cv2.circle, and then the coordinates. And in circle, this is the thickness, this is the radius, the color, and so on. Now, to write a text, we'll utilize cv2.putText. And notice I am storing all these outputs in different variables, L1, L2, L3, L4. Now, here I'm utilizing cv2.putText. To write a text, I'm taking a copy of the image and then writing this text called sample image. and utilizing the font that I've mentioned here in this code, and then the font size. That's the font size, and then some other parameters. Now, if you're unsure about which parameters do you want to put in your code or in cv2.rectangles, if any method, you just copy this cv2.line, and then there is a website called pydata.org which very well explains all the parameters used in a particular method quite neatly. So whenever you are confused, just go to that website and all the parameters are explained in detail there. pydata.org. Now here, up till now, I had created the variables and then stored the output in different variables. Now I'm creating a list which is named as L in this case. Now creating a list and then storing all these variables inside the list, L1, L2, L3, L4. So that's the basic reason we need a list, whenever we have to deal with multiple elements, whenever we are dealing with different elements, and then you want to process them all together. So in that case, you will use a list. But then if you are processing this code, cv2.line, rectangle, in separate windows, or you are processing them one by one, then there is no need of creating a list. I'm doing so because I am demonstrating it all together. So, and then since I have 4 variables, L1, L2, L3, and L4, so I'm using the appropriate titles in the correct order. So line, rectangle, circle, and text, and then again using a loop to loop through this, and again using an iterator to loop through this list, which is now L1, L2, L3, L4. So that's why. And then plt.imshow list of I, which is now this part, the L of I means the ith index of that list. So whenever you are accessing elements in Python, indexes, they can be accessed, the elements, they can be accessed using the square brackets and the position of the particular index. Now, since this range was for I in range, this was from 0 to 4. So that's the reason whenever this plt.imshow method is being called, it will take values like, the 0th index of L, which is L and then bracket 0, L, and then the value of I will be 1, L1, L2, L3, L4. So the indexes, they always start from 0 till the n-1 of the list. So if you notice in this case, L1, L2, L3, L4, so the indexes will be 0, 1, 2, and 3. So the 0th element will be L1, the first element will be L2, and so on. So that's the reason I've used this accessor method. And then similarly displaying the titles, and then some other fancy methods to beautify the image. Now if you see here, a line has been drawn, this line. And if you notice, a rectangle has been drawn. Similarly, circle and a text, which is a sample text. Now, these were the basic methods. Now, the point is, whenever you have to resize an image, how are we actually going to do that? So resizing is also quite easy in Python. All we need in OpenCV, all we need is cv2.resize. Now, this cv2.resize method, this cv2.resize method, this actually does the main job of changing or resizing the image. So this contains nothing but the basic syntax is cv2.resize the image the variable or the image name, and then desize, which is which are nothing but the dimensions of your image, and then the scale, x scale and the y scale, and then the interpolation. Now in rescaling, the rescaling basically can be done in three ways. The first method could be, rescaling along x-axis, along a particular x scale, and then rescaling along y scale. The third could be rescaling while preserving the aspect ratio. So aspect ratio is basically, whenever you are actually calculating the width or height, preserving it, you are actually changing the height and width in the similar fashion. So that's the height, and that's the another thing while resizing an image. Now, the reason is there are methods known as interpolation methods, interpolate it to the nearest neighbor. So these are the interpolation methods. So I'll not go into detail about talking all about interpolation methods. I just wanted to get you acquainted with these methods. So these are nearest neighbors, which is inter-nearest, linear, inter-area, cubic, and this Lang's 4. Now, why do we need interpolation? We want bigger images, we want zoomed images, and let's say you are seeing a video clip on a PC, in your computer, you like to see it in a full screen mode, you want good images, and you want clear images, you want to repair the images, so, or you want neat and tidy and fancy artistic effects on your images. So for all these scenarios, we can use various interpolation methods. Now, let's actually focus on the main topic, which is resizing an image. As I told you, resizing can be done in three manners. First would be preserving the aspect ratio, which is nothing but the ratio of ratio of width to height of an image. That's an aspect ratio, changing them altogether by preserving the aspect ratio. Second would be changing along the x-axis or y-axis. So this is the code which basically takes the necessary libraries, cv2.im, this PLT variable, and then the cv2 method library, and then I've read the image here. In this part, I'm reading an image and then creating a subplot and simply creating a title called original image and then displaying my image. So this up till this section, this plt.im show image, this section is nothing but just reading the image as is and then displaying it. Now, to scale an image, to resize an image, I am just choosing an arbitrary scale %, which is 50 in this case. Now here, the dimensions, they come into picture. I've created a variable called width for width and similarly for height. Now, I'm just utilizing image.shape, the first index. If I just talked about image.shape, which was in case of a colored image, which had 3 parameters, and in case of a grayscale, which had only 2 parameters. So I am accessing the first 2 parameters were nothing but the width and the height. So I am accessing the first index, and then for width, and then the 0th index for height. That's the reason this code is image.shape first, which will be the first element from that particular shape method, and then multiplying it by the scale %. Similarly, multiplying the height by the scale %, and then storing them in a variable called desize, width and height. Now, to resize, I am creating a variable which is output using cv2.resize, and then the image variable, the original image, and then the D size, the dimensions. So this image will be resized according to the dimensions that we have just provided, this D size method. This is how your image will be resized, and then I am using another subplot to display them, called using the title called resized, and then displaying it. Now the second line of the code talks about resizing using the scale method, the X scale and the Y scale. So I have used the similar aspect ratio, which is the 3/4 of the original size, 0.75, 0.75, and just displaying them. That's another resizing. And now here in this part, I am just doubling the image size, again using the same method. If you notice, anywhere I'm resizing an image, no matter what parameters I incorporate in the code, I am using cv2.resize method in my code, throughout in my code. So this is cv2.resize, and then again the image name, and this is the scale parameter fx and fy. So I'm doubling them. I'm preserving the aspect ratio and doubling the image across X and Y scales. And then utilizing a subplot to display, and a title called resize double, and then displaying them. Now, if you see the output, this is the original image. This is the original image, and if you notice the scale, the image has been resized to nearly, the scale has been reduced to nearly half, 50%. And in the second part, the image has been doubled. It has been resized to nearly double the size. Here, if just notice the scale, and then here it has been resized to 3/4. Now, if you want to resize more, you can very well, go ahead and play around with these parameters. Just try to change these parameters accordingly. So I am using again cv2.resize and fx and fy 0.1, 0.1, and then for bigger image, I'm just providing these kind of parameters. And this is nothing but I'm stretching the image and using the nearest neighbor interpolation method, and simply displaying it. That's the bigger image, and if you see it here, that's the original image, that's the half of the size, that's the bigger image, and that's the nearest neighbor interpolation. Now, an interesting thing is, how do we resize horizontally? Meaning, if you want to resize along the x-axis or along the horizontal axis, keeping the height unchanged. Up till now, we have been resizing by preserving the aspect ratio. So now we'll see how do we resize horizontally, and then we'll see how do we resize an image vertically. So just read the image using this parameter imread, define a new width. I'm defining a new width 300. Now I'll not change the height this time. I have just, instead of using the accessor from the shape method and then multiplying it by a scale factor, I just defined a new width as 300, and then here created a desize method using the new width and then the height from the shape method. So if you notice in this code, the height is same. I've used the height from the shape, from the dimension. I've pulled out the height from the dimension, and then, but then width, I have set it accordingly. So now, and then I am displaying it, resizing it using cv2.resize, using the image and then the dimension and the interpolation method, and giving it a title called horizontal, and then displaying the image. And similarly, to resize vertically, all you need to do is just the opposite of this. Keep the width intact and set the height of your choice. So I've set it, I'm setting a height of my own choice, and then using the width from this dimension dot shape method, the first index, which is the width, and then the new height, the changed height. And then the same old thing, which is cv2.resize, and then creating a subplot and displaying an image vertically. And this is how your image is resized. This is the horizontal image, and then this is resized vertically along a particular axis. So next would be, how do we crop an image? Okay, so before talking about the wait. So I'll discuss the thing that I was actually wanting to talk about in this section only. So to crop an image, cropping is nothing but, you know, just a slicing of an image. In Python, if you are aware that whenever you are retrieving an element, you will have to use the accessor methods that I am using up till now in my code, using, for example, to pull out the 0th index, to pull out the first index, I'm using the particular method, and then 0, 1, and so on, the index, that particular index. So cropping also behaves in the same manner. If you just visualize, cropping is nothing but just a slicing, taking a piece out of an image. So that's how that's the main intent behind cropping, which is nothing but slicing. So there's no particular syntax. However, to crop an image, all you need to know is the starting and the ending coordinates. So similarly, to crop, all you need to remember is the start row, the start row, the end row, the start column, and the end column. So the image actually, this image, the cropping thing, this actually slices the image in form of arrays by passing the starting and the ending coordinates. So if this is not clear, I'll tell you what I actually am referring to. For example, I'll just talk about how do we actually perform slicing and dicing. So for example, let's say we have a list which contains elements called from 1 to 9, and then now here, for example, I want the elements between 4 and 8, inclusive of 4 and 8, elements, or these elements between 4 and 8, if I want these elements. So for that, I'll have to use the accessor methods, the slicing and dicing in Python. So if you're not quite clear about the slicing and dicing methods, so before proceeding to any of these codes, before proceeding to slicing, to rotating, transforming, just go through what slicing and dicing is, and how you can actually retrieve the elements from a list, or from a list probably, because that's the easiest way you can learn. So that's number one exercise that you should do if you're not quite familiar with that. So here, what I'm doing is I'm just printing the elements. As I already told you, the elements in Python, they begin from 0th index. So I want the elements from 4 to, all the elements between 4 to 8. So if you notice, this fourth is that if I talk about the indexes 0, 1, 2, 3. So element 4, the fourth, the number 4 is at the third index, starting from number 1, which is at 0th index. So 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So fourth is at third index. So that's the reason we've written A3. So I am retrieving the element at the third index, colon 8. Now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 till here. Now if you run this code, or if I run this code, you will see that printing this thing. Let me comment this out. Now I'm just printing A and then brackets and then 3 colon 8. Now always remember, whenever you supply the last index, the elements will be retrieved till n-1 places. For example, if I have if I'm supplying the elements from third index till 8th index, so the third index, which is 4, and then 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, so these many elements will be printed out. So that's the output here: 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the basic behind image cropping an image. So that's that's the kind of slicing and dicing that we do while cropping an image. Now to crop an image, if you notice here, just define the edges: x1, y1, x2, y2, edges as in the section of the area, the subsection that I want to crop from the image. So I'm just defining that, and then simply providing the indexes, starting from first, that's your choice, starting from the starting coordinates and the ending coordinates. So if you notice here, the image is being cropped, that in terms of dimensions. Now let's see how do we actually crop an image by running a code. So slicing is the main intent for image cropping. So that's in this part: reading an image, converting it to a grayscale image here, and then up till here I am displaying the original image, doing nothing. Now taking the height and width using the image.shape and then :2. So :2 will retrieve both the elements, height and width. You can also create separate variables like we were doing up till now using image.shape 0 and then 1, but that's how you can write it in a single piece of code. Now here I am just displaying the starting coordinates. The start column, start row and start column, just created 2 variables, and then I have multiplied the height by a factor, and then multiplied the width by a factor, so that I should know what are the new slicing, what are the new coordinates that I want to perform slicing on. Similarly, I'm doing it for the ending coordinates, the end row and end column. Here, end row and end column, multiplying the height by a factor and then multiplying the width by a factor to pull out the new coordinates. Now, simply as this code talks about, I am simply using, wait, okay. To reiterate, I have just taken out the new coordinates for to crop an image. So I've just multiplied the height and width by some factor. In this case, I've multiplied them by 0.5 and 0.75 respectively. And now I am using indexing to crop out the image. So that's the main intent behind cropping an image in Python. So indexing is the main intent behind cropping an image. So now what we do is simply use this this particular code, image, and then start row, end row, and then start column and end column. Just retrieve that particular subsection from your image and then display your image accordingly. If you see it here, so this image has been cropped by a certain factor. So indexing is the main intent. Now, before talking about rotating an image, I would like to talk about how to perform shifting an image. So shifting is basically shifting an image by some parameter, by some shifting in a particular direction. So for that, there is a matrix which is which is known as a transformation matrix. So these coordinates, these output, the tx and ty, these two columns, they determine the shift in a matrix. So they are basically responsible to encode the rotation or probably the translation, which is shift in this case. So this is also known as a translation, the transformation matrix. Now what we do is to perform a shifting in an image, we just create a transformation matrix, a translation matrix. This is this. If the shift is xy, then this matrix would be this xy, determine the shift or the translation. Now let's shift it by 150 points, the pixels. So these are the points, 100 and then 50. Now again, I'm reading the image. I'm reading the image and then converting it to a grayscale, converting it. And then here, again, I am taking out the height and width from the image, the rows and columns using the XSR method. And here, if you notice this part of code, I am just defining a translation matrix, this part, using the array from NumPy module. So here we use NumPy. So NumPy, as I already told you, this is used whenever you have to perform manipulation with arrays. Whenever you're working with arrays, you want to create an array, you want to perform any kind of manipulation on arrays. So NumPy comes handy there. So for my scenario, to create a shift, as I told you, we need to define our translation matrix. So that, we should determine that the shift is by so and so points, so and so in so and so direction. So for that purpose, I have defined a translation matrix using numpy.float. So NP, because the alias for NumPy is NP in this scenario. So numpy.float and then the matrix 1001, and then I am shifting it by 200 points in this scenario. So that's the reason this point. Now just encoding, just wrapping up the translation matrix in a warp affine matrix. Now this you must be wondering what this warp affine matrix is. So this is nothing but a matrix which is basically responsible for modifying the geometric structure of the image by preserving the parallelism, or by basically preserving the collinearity and ratios of the distances. So it helps us modify the geometric structure, and by preserving the original structure or the collinearity as well. So that's the whole thing. It can be basically, it is mostly used in machine learning and deep learning for image processing. So to correct, whenever you are told to correct geometric distortions, deformations that occur with non-ideal camera angles, so affine transformation, it comes into picture there. So I've just defined the shift at 200 points, and then used a CV2.warp affine, and then the image, and then the translation matrix and rows and columns. So rows and columns were nothing but the height and width of my image. And then writing it back, just displaying it, just shift enter. If you see that my image has been shifted by 200 points. So just notice along the x-axis. If you want to shift it by on both the directions, on y-axis as well, so just change that particular point here. That's the thing which defines the shift. Just change it here. Let's say 50. Now, if you notice that the image has been shifted across x-axis and y-axis both. So that's the basic shifting that we do. So to perform, to flip images with OpenCV, see these methods like the rotation, the flipping that we do, the slicing method, the shift method the shifting that we are doing. These are nothing but basic image transformations. So we have different methods for each and every scenario. For example, we talked that to perform an image slicing, to crop an image, there is no method, but then you just have to slice the particular subsection from the image. To perform a shift, you have to define a translation matrix and then the direction where you want to shift. Similarly, to perform to flip an image, all you need to do is use the CV2.flip method. So this will flip your image. And then the flipping can be around vertical axis, horizontal, or along both axes, depending on the parameters that you are providing. And now the syntax for this could be CV2.flip, and then the source, the image name, the source, which is the input array, and DST, which is the output array of the same size, and then the flag, which determines along which axis do you want to flip your image. Either it's 0, which means flipping around x-axis, and positive value 1 meaning around y-axis, negative value meaning around both the axes. So in flipping, this flag determines the direction where you want to actually make the flip happen. And the return value is an image. Now, if you see that in this code, the image is being read, and again it is being converted. Now, this is the code that is responsible for flipping, CV2.flip, and I've used the image and then determined this flag, which is 1 in this case. Now again, I've displayed it similarly using plt.title. This is image now, and this image was the original image. That's the variable inside plt.imshow image, and plt.imshow another subplot to display the flipped image. So I have titled it as a flipped image and a plt.imshow FLP. This FLP contained the output of this thing, output of a flipping, output by flipping an image. Now I am running it, just pressing Shift Enter. See, if you notice that this image has been flipped. Just notice the scale this time. This image. And you can also change this flag if you want to, let's say -1. If you notice that the image has been, it's almost an inverted image. So this flag in cv2.flip determines the flip is responsible for flipping an image in a particular direction. So then we have noise filtering. So for noise filtering, we have various methods. But then before noise filtering, I would like to take you through this part, the image rotation part. See this part. Okay. So this particular section of the code is basically rotating an image. So now you know that this is the image is being read, and now I am rotating the images across. I am rotating the image 90 degree clockwise, 90 degree counterclockwise, and 180 degree. So I'm rotating it across 3 different directions. Now to rotate an image, you need to use this method called cv2.rotate, and then your file name, the image name, and then utilize cv2.rotate 90 clockwise. Just use this thing as is. To rotate it counterclockwise, just copy the same code and then use rotate 90 counterclockwise. To rotate it by 180 degrees, just use this cv2.rotate and then rotate it by rotate underscore 180. And here in this part, in this output part, I have simply created a list consisting of all the variables that I created earlier. So this is the original image, and then 90 degree, and then 90 degree clockwise. If you find that these variables are quite lengthy, so just shorten it accordingly, according to your choice. And then here I have given the title, origin 90 clockwise, 90 counterclockwise, and then rotating it by rotate 180. These are the titles given to these variables, and then displaying the image, and then reiterating this thing through the loop, this subplot, and then displaying the image. Now if you see the code, the output, so that's the original image, and that's the 90-degree clockwise image, and then that's 90-degree counterclockwise, and then that's the image that has been rotated by 180 degrees. So CV2 dot rotate is basically responsible for rotating an image. So that's the main intent. So I would not be taking more topics now. So I'm open to any questions that you have. So we can discuss the questions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And just I would like to give you a link to my YouTube channel in case you are interested in learning more on data science, and just in case you want to enhance your learning. So this is my YouTube channel. Feel free to subscribe it. That's the channel. Yeah. So I'm open to any questions that you have. Yes, see image convolution, and these were, image rotation, transformation, and flipping. These were some of the transformations that we discussed, because then due to the shortage of time, due to the limited time, I could incorporate only these many topics. So yes, image convolution can also be done in Python. So other than that, you have many things like, to remove noise in image, to introduce noise to an image, and basically noise filtering, Gaussian filtering, blur. Sure. I'll share the Python code. See, to avoid processing delays in an image, the best thing that people do is to convert it into a grayscale mode. So that basically reduces the processing time. Sure, I'll give you as an at the end of this session, I'll share the entire notebook with you, this IPyng, and it contains, other than this thing, other than these the code that we discussed, it contains other codes as well. For example, you can get an idea to remove the noise from an image. So there are various topics which I could not discuss due to the shortage of time. So you can very well utilize that code to enhance your learning. And of course, and any other information that you want, you can get it from my channel as well. So, and as in when you get to run this code, you'll actually get a clarity on how things work. So I would advise, if you are not familiar with slicing and indexing, so I would yes, you'll have to install it in Anaconda Navigator. Yes. So that's an open source, but that you'll have to use it. You'll have to install it using PIP. So slicing and dicing, or the indexing, is the first thing that people should actually focus on while working on any code in Python. That basically lays the foundation of your learning. Because you might have noticed that while transforming an image, while flipping, while performing any kind of manipulation, we are basically slicing the image in any manner we want. We are utilizing the height, width, and so on. So see, I am not familiar about. I am not much familiar about this Google Colab. So OpenCV, this Kaggle is a platform. I've utilized Kaggle so that the people who don't have Python installed in their local systems can also get an idea to utilize the platform, and altogether it's a new learning. That should be new for people who are not familiar. So in Python, if you're using Kaggle notebooks, this kaggle.com, just go to kaggle.com and then create a profile, and then create your profile and then open a kernel. If you want to add a data of your choice, just click on add data. And for example, if you want to use an image segmentation, for example, or image classification, any data set. So this is an open source. You can also pull out the data set of your choice. For example, if you want to use a data set for medical imaging, and so if you're quite unfamiliar, you can get the data from here. That's an open source, and then add it and download it. And so that's a great learning platform.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining the session. I think noise disturbance was there at the last. So now I would like to request all the participants for the break, and then I request you all to please rejoin at 2 p.m. We have a very interactive session at 2 p.m. It is by Dr. Deepak Ranjan Nayak sir, and he is the assistant professor at MNIT Jaipur, and he will be sharing the introduction to pattern recognition and its implementation also. So this will be the last session for today's STTP. And so I request you all to please join the session at 2 p.m. And I also request you all to please fill the attendance for this current session.